In this Tech Talk, I am exploring the benefits of process control automation with Matt Lueger, VP of Sales at NorthWind Technical Services. Hi, Matt. Thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, Joanie. You bet. Thanks for having me.
So this is a pretty big topic that we're going to talk about. So I think we should probably start by dialing in the definition of process control. It can be a kind of a broad term for some bakers, depending on their point of view. So if we're looking at the baking process, what would you say are the steps in the process that require the actual control and what requires automation?
Sure. Yeah. So really anything that's helping make your product that's out on the plant floor can have some version of automation or process control on it. For us, what we typically see is we're involved more on the front side of the plant. So say the raw ingredient handling, the liquid transferring, the dosing, the mixing, the batching. But sometimes it means integrating other islands of automation downstream, like an oven or a packaging equipment.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. And that's sort of what I was thinking too. Like, I think it's an easy definition if you're primarily focused on the front end, but it is good to know that there's process control automation that can be used at the back end as well. So the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is looking at this automation in terms of this era of food safety that we're in. I call it the era of FSMA. How can automated process controls benefit an operation outside of the baking process? So things like lot tracking and stuff like that.
So I think automation can be a huge benefit to tracking, tracing, and food safety. Again, where we see it play the most is in recipe management. So if you can imagine operators, as they add ingredients into the system, we can get confirmation that they're using the right raw ingredients. We can force them to put in a lot number and we can track which lots go into every single batch. But then in addition to that, our recipes don't just have to be ingredient information. It can be critical control points that ultimately affect food quality and the safety of that product before it goes in the bag.
So it seems like this is something that while it streamlines the process up front, it also helps should something go wrong, this is a tool that bakers can rely on to go back and sort of trace everything back to the beginning, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimately, they're putting all that data in the system. We tie that data to all the timestamps and the points in the process where it happens. So if later on they want to go back and find a lot and see which product it went into and what other parameters were involved when they produced that product, all that information is available in reports or in a database to go look up.
Do you think that this is something, if a baker was facing a recall, that it would help dial in exactly what products are recalled? Does it help in that respect?
Yeah, so my understanding is that in the event of a recall, they have so much time to go to figure out which products had that bad lot in it. So you can do a reverse lot lookup to see which batch, which campaign, which days that lot was used, and can tie that back to every bag or every truck that went out during that time.
So they can get really specific about what products need to be recalled and ensure that they are getting back the right products and keeping those from going into consumers' homes, but then also preventing them from needlessly taking product out of the market that wasn't impacted. Is that a fair?
Correct. Yep. They don't have to expand that window farther just to make sure that they're getting all of it. And they can also get to that information really quickly.
Okay, so let's talk about integration. This type of automation can feel like a really big step for some bakers, especially ones who are just sort of starting to dabble in automation, or maybe they're not a huge giant operation. Can you sort of dial in for me what integration looks like from NorthWind's perspective? How can those tools help sort of streamline this process?
Yeah, so with the current state of automation today with Industry 4.0 and machine learning and AI, there's a big push from all of manufacturing to integrate all of the data that they have across their plant floor. You know, I always say that they've got these islands of automation, these machines that have a lot of information on them, but they're not necessarily pulling all of it together. Well, the first step is to get that into kind of a plant-wide SCADA system to just get visibility. But then the really big wins, I would say, is into getting that data into an MES system. An MES system puts the data into contextual information, so you can get operational efficiency or OEE, you can get preventative maintenance tools or other production KPIs that help you run your business better.
You know, I've talked to a lot of bakers who swear by MES systems. They really say that integrating that type of technology is sort of a game changer in streamlining the process, especially with multiple lines or even multiple facilities, tying it all into one system. Is that kind of what you see as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone, you know, wants a grade book to say, how good are we really doing? So if you don't have that data from those multiple lines to say this one's doing better, or this shift is doing better than that one, this plant is operating better, you really don't know if you can improve from one to the other. So it really helps point out where the bottlenecks are in their production and specifically how to start improving those bottlenecks.
Yeah. Well, and I like what you said about sort of establishing baselines that you can compare lines, compare facilities, or even compare shifts. That I think is a really useful piece of information where a bakery operation can pinpoint inefficiencies.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then how specifically does NorthWind work with a bakery team to integrate this automation into their existing operation?
Yeah, that's a good question, because putting in a full MES system, you know, in terms of both cost and time, ultimately, those can be multi-year projects, depending on how big the facility is. So we urge customers to kind of sit down and take a hard look at their business and say, which tools or metrics, you know, do they need the most or are going to give them the most benefit? But then I think the more critical next step is insisting that their key stakeholders are involved in the project and the process. We find if they're involved, they embrace it a lot faster than they otherwise would. And ultimately, the whole point is to get your people to run it better, right?
So what would you say, what are the keys to integrating this automation without disrupting the process? Because I think that's one of the scariest things for a bakery is they can't stop production. They have to keep product moving out the door. So what are some of the key considerations to sort of make this process really smooth?
So I think, you know, if I could add really just one piece of advice, it would be, you know, if you're just starting your digital transformation journey, sit down with someone first and develop a plan, a long-term strategic plan on how to go through that migration and bite it off in smaller bites. Because to your point, the ultimate goal is to get the most product out the door in the most efficient way possible.
Right.
And if we bog down a team of people who are supposed to be doing that, the project will never get finished. And then they'll feel like they'll have wasted that time and that money and the energy. So yeah, take smaller bites, get those big wins early. And I think you'll find this will be a game changer for your business.
Okay, that's really, really good advice. And I think it's something that more bakeries today are embracing in looking at what their long-term needs are. But you're right, it's really important to make sure that they understand what's achievable in the short term so that they don't disrupt their production. Another sort of question from the NorthWind perspective, if we look at post-implementation, how does NorthWind work with a bakery to make sure to come in and say, okay, this is manageable, the operation is moving, and sort of help them look at the KPIs and unpack the data so they know that they're using the system properly?
Yeah, so we have a robust kind of, I'll say project closeout procedure that we go through. So as we roll it out, we go through a lot of training, we leave them with a lot of material. But then I'd say the biggest thing that we do is we try to set up consultation down the road. We let them put their hands on the system for a while, and then we come back later to find out what they've gotten out of it, what questions they have, and what they don't have ultimately that they would like to get out of it, kind of what those good next steps would be. We also have a 24/7 support team, so if they have issues in the meantime, they can call in. But I think that down the road consultation and ultimately long-term service contracts that we have with people to provide ongoing consulting is where they can get the most out of it.
So it seems like there's a balance there between giving them their wings and letting them fly, while also sort of making yourself available should they need help. Okay, so Matt, if a baker wants to learn more or discover what the first steps are to integrating this into their operation, what do they need to do first?
Yeah, so I would say, reach out to Northwind and ask for them to help you from a consultative purpose. Go to our website or give us a call or reach out to us at the next trade show. But but ask us to talk to you about starting that kind of a digital transformation journey and how we can help consult with you and set that migration plan. That's the biggest piece of advice I'd give you on how to get started.
All right. Well, Matt, I think that's great advice. And I just want to say thank you for helping sort of unpack this technology and what the pieces of automating process control looks like. I think this was really helpful. So thanks for your time and your expertise.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved it.